Hello, Class 1. Today we are painting a large section of our box. So let's refer to our book box plan. I'm about to paint the front and back of my book box. And in our meetings, we had talked about what is difference between your base color and what the difference of your base color compared to your finer details, okay? So today we're concentrating on that base color. And that base color for your fronts and the back, for me it's the same. I think for many people it'll be the same. And then we also want to look at the spine because I'm using that same base color on the spine as well. And the clay around my eye is going to also be that base color. So that's what you want to ask yourself as we start this lesson is, I'm going to do my front and my back and the spine. So that's enough paint. You want to get it all mixed up to spread around the entire box. I'm doing this aqua color, so it's definitely a mix I'm making because that's not in my set exactly like that. So we'll talk about that. As a painter, every time you mix colors, you have the risk of not quite matching the next time you try to mix that color. So you want to think through the amount you put out and kind of remember that every time you have to remix that new color or that color, or just mix enough that you're going to have more than enough to cover this amount of space. Okay, so we'll talk about that. So let's get to it. This is exciting. We are going to first have to mix our paint. And here we are, ready to do that, okay? So I'm going to try to get this kind of teal-y color, light teal or turquoise. So I'm going to take, what is this? This is Vert. I'm going to take Vert and I'm going to put a bit of Vert on my plate. And because I'm going to do quite a bit, I'm going to give even my dark color enough on my plate that it's going to spread around a lot of my box. But I'm reminding myself of that size, okay? It was about the size of a dime. And I'm really going to lighten this up with a lot of white, okay? So I'm going to have to squeeze the back of my little paint tube here, and I'm going to have to fold it over so I can get a little more white out of there. I'm getting down to the end of my tube, and that's okay. All right. There we go. So I have plenty of white. Okay. So let's get your brush a little wet. I'm going to wet these a little, and I'm going to just bring a glob over to my white and see what I start to see. Okay, that's pretty. It's a pretty light green. That's pretty close. That is really, really close. Okay, so I can tell right now that I may not have quite enough for the balance of this book. So I'm going to add a little more white. Okay. And I keep looking at that color. I think I'm going to just put a tiny touch of blue because I want it to be a little more turquoise. So I'm going to put blue over here because I don't want to add it right into my paint mix. What will happen is sometimes, and I've done this a million times, I squeeze out too much and then I have a blue disaster. So I'm just going to bring this over here and add in a little blue to this, maybe a little more. Oh, maybe I'll just take the whole pile over there. Yeah, that worked. All right, so again, I like this a lot. I might make it just slightly deeper. Just slightly deeper. Okay, I'm getting this paint that reminds me of mint chocolate chip ice cream. And I love it. I think it looks just interesting. Okay, so once you get your paint to where you are like, yep, that's the good color, I like it, give it a little hydration, move a little water into it, not a lot. You don't want to spill water in there. You just want to keep that paint nice and creamy. And I'm going to start on my spine. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to look at my book box plan here. And my first little space here is the teal. Just going to put that on there. And then I look again, my second one, I skip the center. And I do that. Okay, see what I got there? And my eye is going to have this. Wet that a little. All right, so I'm going to just paint this. Oh, that's fun to paint. Let me just tell you. Don't forget, go right up to your eye. Now the eye is like a shiny plastic. And the good news is, even when you get a little paint on your eyeball, we can take a wet paper towel and just wipe that off later. So there's no worries about getting paint on your eyeball. You just want to get all the way up to your eyeball though, so that'll make it look even more real. Okay, so see, it wipes right off. I love that. Okay, so I'm going to just take my time here and paint around all this dragon skin. Oh my, it's looking so cool. All right, so when you do something with lots of bumps and detail with your brush, you can kind of squish your brush slightly, not squishy squish. You don't want to squishy squish, but you can kind of rub that brush down into some of those crevices, and that's how you get great coverage. Now, people, don't let me find any little white showing through, so look at it all. Look, I almost left some white under here. Get in there, fix that up. You don't want that there. That doesn't make us pleased. And let's see, I'm gonna just do a little there. Okay. Now, I love what that looks like. And remember, I'm not worried that it's touching my eyeball because I can wipe that off later, okay? What I'm looking for is some really good coverage. And I'm going to continue down the spine, just like this. And following my book box plan, I'm just going to make sure I'm painting where I want to paint with my base color. That's what I'm calling this, okay? Taking your time to do a lovely job. Nice. So there's the base color back here. Now, what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna be holding my book box, but I'm gonna paint the front, and I keep hydrating my paint. Acrylic paint dries fabulously fast. That's a good thing. It can also be a pain in the neck. So you have to keep adding a little bit of water to your paint so that it stays nice and creamy and moves around for you. You are the boss of your paint. So you must decide if it's getting a little thick and it feels dry, then you can add a little bit of water. Now, what makes painting tricky sometimes is if you add too much water, then you're in trouble because then you can't really bring it back. So just add little bits of water at a time. Okay, so this is going well. I really like this color. And I'm just gonna keep painting my front here with my base color, okay? Now I'm gonna set this aside and let this dry for about 5 minutes once I finish this part, okay? Because it is way too hard to handle something that's really wet. It is highly likely that we will be doing this in 2 steps, okay? That's very likely. But I think this is looking good. There you go. All right, so we'll let this dry. Because Mrs. Durst is on video, she's gonna have you imagine she painted this side as well and let it dry. Now, the other thing you gotta think about is around your pages, this little lip. So if you put this down on a safe space, you can paint this little lip really kind of easy, just like this. Again, I'm using the flat brush because I find I can get a nice straight line on that flat brush. Okay, so you can see, I'm gonna be careful as I can, I did the lip around my book pages in my base color as well. Okay, very nice. So in this process, you are going to paint the front, parts of the spine, the back, according to your book box plan, and most likely that lip around your pages. Okay, you might have chosen a different color for the front or back, and that would require you to mix a little more paint. We're going to see how far we go. If today we don't get all the way through, we can also do this next time. Okay, see you. And remember, always wash your brushes and no squishy squish or flicky flick.